Most people think lottery winners go broke because they're stupid or reckless with money they didn't earn properly. But Jack Whittaker was worth $17 million before he ever bought a ticket on Christmas Eve in 2002. He understood business finance better than most people will in their entire lives and still lost everything within 5 years. This is about the structure of sudden wealth and the mechanisms that make it nearly impossible to protect yourself from. In 2002, a garbage collector in West Virginia won $315 million in a single night on Christmas Eve. 5 years later, he was completely broke with nothing left from the entire fortune he had won that night. His granddaughter was dead from an overdose that the money had helped make possible for her at age 17. His wife had left him and filed for divorce after years of watching the money destroy everything they built together. And he was being sued by a casino for writing bad checks despite once having hundreds of millions in accounts. This is why sudden wealth doesn't create the security or happiness that you think it does when you imagine winning. Jack Whittaker didn't need the money when he bought that ticket on Christmas Eve in 2002 at a convenience store. He already owned a construction company worth $17 million that he had built from nothing over 3 decades of work. He knew how to manage cash flow and handle payroll and negotiate contracts with large corporate clients across multiple states. He understood quarterly taxes and business margins and how to make money work for you over time through strategic investments. But none of that experience or business knowledge prepared him for what happened after he won the Powerball jackpot that night. The first thing lottery officials do is make you visible to the entire world around you immediately after you claim it. They require a press conference where you hold an oversized check and smile for cameras and reporters asking invasive personal questions. Your full name becomes public record that anyone with internet access can find in 30 seconds or less with basic search. Your address becomes findable through property records and public databases that track where lottery winners actually live in real time. And suddenly, everyone you've ever known in your entire life remembers that you exist and needs something from you urgently. Whittaker started getting 400 letters a day delivered to his house from people he had never met before in his life. Strangers were asking for business investments in ideas they swore would make everyone rich beyond their wildest dreams within months. Churches were asking for new buildings and mission trips and renovations that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to complete. People showed up at his house unannounced, demanding to speak with him about opportunities that couldn't wait another single day longer. He tried to help at first because he thought that's what a good person does with money like this. He gave $10 million to a Christian foundation he created to distribute funds to people in genuine need across the region. He handed out cash to pastors and waitresses and people standing in parking lots asking for gas money to get home. But the requests didn't slow down no matter how much he gave away to the community around him each week. They got louder and more aggressive and more entitled with every single dollar that left his bank account for someone else. Within 6 months, Whittaker was carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash with him everywhere he went each day and night. He kept it in a briefcase in his car because banks felt restrictive after having access to unlimited money for months. Thieves broke into his car twice in 1 year and stole over $500,000 in cash from the briefcase. He barely noticed the thefts because the amount stolen was a rounding error compared to what he still had in accounts. Then his granddaughter Brandy started getting attention from people who saw her as a direct access point to Jack's enormous fortune. She was 16 years old when he won, and suddenly every person her age wanted to be her best friend overnight. Whittaker gave her an allowance of several $1,000s a week because he wanted her to enjoy the windfall with him. She started using the money to buy drugs and alcohol for herself and everyone in her rapidly expanding social circle daily. People in their 20s and 30s started hanging around her because she had unlimited money to spend on whatever they wanted. Whittaker noticed the change, but didn't know how to stop it without seeming like he was punishing her for his decision. He tried cutting off her allowance, but she would call him crying, and he would give in within hours of holding firm. The guilt of having money while watching her suffer felt worse than the risk of enabling destructive behavior patterns in her. This is the psychological trap that sudden wealth creates in family dynamics, where money becomes confused with love and care. In 2004, Brandy was found dead in a house owned by a boyfriend her family had never met before that terrible day. The coroner ruled it an overdose, but couldn't determine which drug in her system had actually killed her that night exactly. Whittaker blamed himself for giving her access to money that made self-destruction easier than it would have been without funds. His wife Jewel blamed him too, and their marriage collapsed under the weight of grief and resentment and profound, unshakable regret. 4 months after Brandy died, her mother, Whittaker's daughter, was found dead in her home from what was ruled a suicide. Whittaker had now lost 2 family members in less than 2 years, directly connected to the psychological weight of the money. His wife filed for divorce, and the construction business he built over decades collapsed because he stopped paying attention to it. Employees left because paychecks were late, and clients moved to competitors because Whittaker stopped returning calls or showing up to sites. By 2007, all $315 million was gone through lawsuits and theft and gifts and taxes and terrible, impulsive financial decisions. Whittaker had been sued over 460 times by creditors and former friends and family members demanding their share of his winnings. He had lost his daughter to suicide and his granddaughter to overdose, and his wife to divorce in 5 brutal years. The man who once owned a $17 million business was now working odd jobs to pay for basic living expenses. This pattern repeats with almost mechanical precision across every major lottery winner in modern recorded history and beyond that time. The National Endowment for Financial Education estimates that 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt within 5 years or less. Not broke in the sense of having less money than before, but actually bankrupt with negative net worth and crushing debt. They don't just return to their previous financial position, but end up worse off than if they never won anything at all. The first mechanism is visibility, and the sudden shift in how people perceive you after the money becomes public knowledge. When you win the lottery, your identity changes from private citizen to public resource in the minds of everyone around you. People don't see you as a person anymore, but as a solution to their problems that you're withholding selfishly from them. Every no feels like cruelty, and every yes creates 10 more requests that are even larger than the last one received. The social pressure doesn't come from strangers alone, but from family and friends who feel entitled to your good fortune too. Your sister needs a new car, and your cousin needs bail money, and your childhood friend needs a business loan immediately. This creates a psychological trap that most winners don't recognize until it's already too late to escape from it successfully. Saying yes makes you feel generous for about 5 minutes before the next request arrives in your mailbox or voicemail today. Saying no makes you feel guilty and selfish, even when the request is absurd or financially impossible to fulfill reasonably ever. So winners oscillate between both responses without a clear strategy, and the money disappears in every direction at once like water. The second mechanism is that sudden wealth doesn't come with the gradual identity shift that earned wealth creates over time naturally. When you build wealth slowly, you develop systems and boundaries and relationships with advisors who protect you from yourself and others. When wealth appears instantly, you have no systems and no boundaries, and everyone offering advice has a financial motive to exploit. You're making $100 million decisions with the same decision-making framework you used to buy groceries last month at stores. Whittaker's lawyers and financial advisors weren't fiduciaries, and several were actively taking advantage of gaps in his oversight and attention. He trusted people based on decades-old relationships that were built before money changed every incentive structure around him completely and permanently. By the time he realized that trust was being weaponized against him, the damage was already done, and irreversible and catastrophic. The third mechanism is that lottery wealth is a fixed asset that can only shrink, while earned wealth has momentum behind it. When you own a business that generates $2 million a year, you can lose money and still recover next quarter predictably. When you have $315 million sitting in accounts, the only direction it can move is down through spending or theft steadily. There's no monthly revenue replacing what you lose, so every dollar spent is a permanent reduction in total assets available forever. This creates a scarcity mentality disguised as abundance, where winners spend faster because they fear losing access to the money somehow. Whittaker spent lavishly on people and cars and legal fees because it felt like the money would always be there no matter what. But fixed assets disappear faster than people expect when there's no mechanism replacing what leaves the account each month and year. He would spend $50,000 at a strip club in one night because it felt like nothing compared to his total. But $50,000 spent 300 times is $15 million gone, with nothing tangible to show for it at all. The pattern shows up in athletes and celebrities, and anyone who experiences sudden wealth without the structure to contain it properly. NFL players go bankrupt at nearly the same rate as lottery winners, despite having financial advisors from day one of their careers. The common variable isn't education or intelligence, but the sudden visibility and the inability to build boundaries before money arrives suddenly. The visibility makes you a target for every scam and lawsuit and frivolous claim that people can imagine filing against you. Whittaker was sued by a woman who claimed she hurt her back tripping over a rug in one of his properties. He was sued by Caesars Casino for $1.5 million in markers he signed while drunk at blackjack tables over weekends. Each lawsuit required lawyers and court fees and settlements, and the legal costs alone drained millions from his accounts over years. Whittaker said in his last interview that he wished he had torn the ticket up the moment he realized he won it. He said the money didn't buy him anything that made his life better than it was before that Christmas Eve in 2002. It bought him visibility and loss and the destruction of every meaningful relationship he had built over 60 years of living honestly. The system is structured this way because visible winners are more effective at driving ticket sales than anonymous payouts would be. Lottery corporations operate in markets where public disclosure requirements create predictable outcomes that benefit the system more than the individual winner. So winners become visible, knowing the statistical likelihood of financial collapse, but underestimating how quickly the structural pressures will compound together. Sudden wealth doesn't reveal character flaws that were hidden before the money arrived in your account one day without any warning. It removes the social and financial constraints that prevent most people from making catastrophic decisions in their daily normal lives consistently. Information asymmetry doesn't disappear when you get rich, but it inverts, and suddenly everyone knows more about your vulnerabilities than you. This is Luxona.